ended 2024 and are already in month 2 of 2025. And I guess I've got some episodes to catch up on, right? How many? 7. Wow. Well, this recap's gonna take forever. Oh, we're still working? We're still doing this? I mean, it has been a while. How many Gochizos have died? Actually, I feel like the show's been like casually downplaying the Gochi side as of late. What? What? The parents complain? Likely. Though the majority of the episodes seem unfazed by the reception, one of the episodes did feel a little awkward. So look, to save me some time in the editing room, I'm going to do some quick takes on what happened on episodes 16 through 22. Now, for the most part, the underlying story is focused on Lage 9, or Lakia later on his journey from underling to attack dog to eventual defector, and Shoma's continual tendency to feed Hanto half-truths, building to the eventual character assassination based on what he's held back. And like I said, look, in terms of recaps, yeah, no, this is like 7 episodes, so if y'all are here for the recaps, or if y'all just tune in for the recaps, then you're kinda out of luck. I mean, I'm just saying. Now, truth be told, I started scripting out the recaps, but damn, look, I'd be here longer than we had with Gotchart's finale. Not to mention that I've got Boom Boomja that I'm filming literally right after this one. Wait, if there's no recaps, then there's no fight talks. Then what am I gonna do? Man, I don't know, go find somebody to terrorize. I bet. Samurai Green time, Mike! Of course, in prep for this, I did binge all 7 episodes, with the last time watching them being when they technically aired. So when I started typing out my recaps, I got to about 3.5 episodes in, and I'm like, you know what? This is crazy, especially since I'm going quarter speed of what's going on just to type it all out. So look, we're massively speeding things up. Episode 16 obviously was the continuation of 15, with it being the last episode of 2024, while also wrapping up the Crab Granute storyline, who made Shoma look sympathetic towards them, giving Hanto pause to what exactly Shoma's goal is. However, this episode's bigger points lay in the foundations of Lage 9 having ulterior motives confirmed. Look, not overall bombastic, but a way to close out the year. But yes, indeed a very good episode, getting that Agito A. Next is a multi-episode arc that goes beyond your typical 2-episode format. Sure, we do have a monster of the tweak that is in episodes 17 and 18, that being the red scarf lady thing, but it really kicks off Lage 9's arc. As previously, we had a bit of an introduction to him, but here, we are really starting to dig into him. Because look, although the initial setup was implied that there was more to him than just wanting dark candy, which, look, if you translate the Granute text directly, it's not dark confectionaries, it's not dark treat, they literally type it out as dark candy, then look, we get into the next batch of episodes, as we see that his story revolved around his brother becoming an addict, working for the Stomach family, but mysteriously getting killed in Lakia's doorstep. This ends up leading to his master plan of infiltrating the Stomach family and attempting to take them down from the inside. However, in running into Shoma and seeing that he is indeed a Granute, he is now with the assumption that he was the one that killed his brother. But the timetable just doesn't line up. Shoma tries breaking through to Lage 9 by showing him that humans are going through the same struggles as him. Though, from his perspective, he didn't even know what humans were until he got the job. But in actually finding some common ground, ends up working with Shoma. This, of course, comes after his big debut fight as Vlam. Man, all of that piss. You know, I feel like they know what they're doing when it comes to these transformations. Like, you got that creamy cream. You got all of the number twos, like just shit squirt, just squirt shit. Then you got the piss, and then Pepto-Bismol. Like, come on. I don't know what kind of writer they've got coming up next, but I'm expecting something like a greenish white, like that cloaca, like combination of piss and shit that just comes out of birds. Look, it could be toothpaste for all we know. It could just be toothpaste, but the way it's gonna be looking, like, you can't tell me.
Stop it. Get some help.
And of course, Vlam is responsible for handing Hanto way more L's to his list, incapacitating him to allow for this collaboration to even come about between him and Shoma. But only after meeting Suga and getting his DNA snatched up. Shoma and Lakia follow an agent into the stomach base to free the humans that Lakia had previously captured, unlocking a memory of Hanto's mom in the process and running into Glota. Just for her to reveal at the end of their big bombastic fight that Shoma is a member of the Stomach family, all to Hanto's dismay. Hanto was already feeling some kind of way about seeing him and Shoma, like, fighting with Vlam, because he was confused by that aspect, but then of course, this just adds more fuel to the fire. Hence, that opening bit. 17 and 18 both actually get an Agito A. But 19 and 20 crush it back up to S ranks. So listen, if you watched 2 Tokutonics ago as of this live stream, then you know that I've started to reach my hesitancy point when it comes to this show right now. As I mentioned in the first review, is that this show is unique for a main series writer show from Toei since it started production well ahead of its debut, which left the plot very dense and substantive. Which, look, that is indeed a good thing. No studio interference, and letting the head writer do what they wanted to do before getting boggled down by notes from the higher-ups. By the time this show aired, it was rumored to have already been about 20 episodes deep into production, and we've now passed that point. But in the lead up to things, there are a few observational paddings that have come within these episodes. Like, the last 5 minutes of one episode will be the starting minutes of the next one. Of course, there is a little bit of an exaggeration there, but when binging the episodes, it's a lot more noticeable. This does actually diminish the amount of new content within each episode, which gives the impression that they're either trying to make some cuts based off of notes, or they needed to space things out to line things up for certain scheduling. Episode 21 was a weird episode for me because it gave the appearance of a Frankenstein episode, where the first half was mostly solid on its own, but when we get to the second part and the introduction of Bitter Gavv, it feels like we sped through and rushed to a new storyline. It made it by far the worst episode in the show thus far for me, if only for the pacing and the rushed narrative structure. Since within the same episode, we have Suga doing cell division on samples taken from Shoma, only to right away get this clone? And just to backtrack a little bit, my initial theory, going back in episode 20 and seeing the preview for this episode, was that the DNA taken was paired with the Mimic Divisor, which is the device that the Granutes use to look human, and having Suga use that to mask his appearance, essentially making that Bitter Gavv belt have the dual purpose of not only transforming into a writer, but also making the identity of its user look like Shoma. But then 21 gave the appearance that this is not the case. But with that being said, I gotta give this episode a low build B. Look, it was almost a C ranking if it wasn't for the first half of the episode. Hanto really does try to find reasoning in Shoma's action and getting the correct feelings that he might have been overreacting. But as I said, the second half really did feel like a rush was in place just to give this new character some sort of introduction, and I say all this right before actually having watched the latest episode. And this is the fun thing about script writing back when, episode 21 was the episode, and now having seen episode 22, but still leaving most of the script intact, is that, look, maybe my prior statements might have been a little premature. Either that, or they've either found a way to adjust whatever production notes were had But with that being said, the plot still feels a little rushed. Episode 22 does flow better narratively. It resolves the doubt towards Shoma, but at a relatively quickly pace. First comes Sachika, who outright locks out Hanto for ousting Shoma without his consent, and that he might have just been jumping to conclusions. Earlier in the episode, with the fight between Bitter Gavv and Hanto, Lakia chimes in, but of course, him being a Granu and knowing Granu biology is aware that you can't just drastically alter a Gavv like that. So he didn't even believe it was Shoma to begin with. And Hanto, finally taking in everything from Sachika and Lakia, decides to hear Shoma out. Who, by the way, passed out last time because his body had issues pulling out a brand new Gochizo!
Who's that Gochizo?
Oh, we still doing this? I mean, previously we had what Mochi, the Bitter Gavv ones, now Elegant Macaroon, and they all kind of look alike. So, Cookie!
It's
Aerate it. Warm it up. Driving up that top note. That cream. Pure vanilla. Sweeteners. That's a 10.
I mean, it's a little bit early for that one because we ain't even getting sorbet yet, but okay. Either way, as the weight of Shoma's holding back finally comes to light when he and Hanto have a discussion out in the open and no one clearly is suspecting that he is the guy that beat up those old folks. Lakia seeks out Suga for some assistance now that he feels that he can't return to Niram. However, looking at the snacks that he's trashed, it's clear to see that Bitter Gavv is indeed Suga's creation and was just chilling in the back room. Bitter Gavv, on the other hand, goes snack hunting until finally coming about the snack necessary for him to create a brand new Gochizo of his own, which leads Hanto and Shoma straight to him, taking him on and cream pieing some donuts and getting tossed over. All for Shoma to have more of that memory regarding Hanto's mom unlocked. This episode did do a solid job of showing that everyone in this show acts like real people, thinking through a lot of the revelations that came about with a proper conclusion rather than just jumping into one, which overall is actually a good thing. Though I'm still not liking how quickly we're going through the Bitter Gavv arc. However, that being said, this is a much better episode than the last one, with the only issue that I have still being the sloppy introduction of Bitter Gavv, which is why I feel that this episode still deserves the Agito A! So, once again, those scores being A, S, S, B, A. Damn, really trying to speed run through this shit, right? Well, look, with these episodes of Kamen Rider Gavv, we do have quite a few new forms and writers. So, with that, let's talk forms. Oh yeah, we technically didn't do this one. When he came out, he was out there just rocking that big old meat log, just Bullshul is currently, in my opinion, the best form Valen's gotten up to this point. Even looking at the upcoming form coming up, it's just eh. But look, the additional armor components really work well with the color scheme, and the additional logs on the helmet just make it stand out in a good way. If you compare it to Gavv's Bushel, this is just a superior one. We got Vlam in 2 color options. However, one thing about these 2 forms that are terrible is...
What are those?
Exactly! What are those? This man out here rocking brown clogs. Is this man Dutch or something? Like, what? The pudding form is the better out of the 2, but look, I don't really care about the design for both. Like they don't really do much. Yes, I get that the helmet is trying to be spoons in the pudding cup, but they also double as some sort of headphone things. But honestly, it ain't doing it for me. It's probably like one of the weakest things about the entire suit is the helmet for both of them. I think that the pink one is actually inferior to the other one, but they ain't good. Like I said, Pepto-Bismol over here just is not looking any better. And look, the spilled cups with that odd texture that he has really doesn't do it any favors. However, it's got a pretty neat ability that I think does make the form look much better. And that ability makes him go, look at that! It's better! It's better. Bitter Gavv is... That is one sexy suit. That is like the sexiest suit in the show thus far. And I mean, what's not to like about this outside of his introduction? While the original Gavv was shaped like teeth all over, Bitter Gavv abandons that option, looking for a more edgy design. If anything, the chest resembles more of like mandibles of an insect rather than human teeth. Man, that color scheme? Right now, this stands at like the apex of suit design for me when it comes to this show. So, where does that leave us in terms of the show itself? Clearly, it's still hitting its mark, but I do remain a little hesitant on feeling totally optimistic. After all, those first quarter sales numbers did have this show premiere with the worst starting quarter for a writer in 15 years. Now, that is strictly toy sales. This could be why Bitter Gavv felt so rushed out the gate, as they really wanted to rush the toy out and just have an episode to match along with it. As we progress through the show, I'm starting to wonder what the major plot twist will be as we approach the halfway point. Like, what's gonna be the shift in dynamic here? They've written the characters way too intelligent for their own good, but I can see it coming more from Suga than anyone else in the cast, as he remains the biggest oddity. I mean, have you really looked at Suga? Like, really looked at him? He looks like a man out of time. Like, seriously, his attire looks like something out of the early 1900s, living in modern day with a knack for tech. We really don't know what his personal motivations are outside of fucking around and finding out, all for the sake of science, which is the scientific aspect of the show that I was hoping to really see from him in the earlier episodes, and we're really getting that now. Though his level of genetic creation of the Bitter Gavv is still the weak point of the show. The only way that I can see it working out in my head as an explainer, but not really having too much evidence for the fact based off of just proper theory crafting that I had before, is if they do pull the plot that Suga himself is a fabricated human, possibly a clone of the original Suga, who already knew of the tech and was able to just refine it so quickly. But like I said, since it's such a loose theory, I'm not willing to put real weight into it and try to die on that hill. So I'm still hesitant on calling it like a proper theory. Because look, if he already had the technology already, why didn't he just clone a Granute? After all, he already had the organs. Then there's the motivations he previously had seem like a fabrication just to make friendly with Hanto. Because if you remember, he also wanted the eradications of the Granute. But if he's also working with them while just overall fascinated by it, not to mention that he's also curious about the dark candy, but if he's buddy-buddy with Nirab, what's stopping him from just asking for a sample? Like, there's just so many things that he says that don't add up. Really, if there's an endgame boss currently out in the open, it's Suga, with a close runner-up being Nirab. Because, as we see from him, they are both mooching off each other to advance their own tech, consistently one-upping each other. Suga utilizes Shoma's Gochizos to create a henshin device like the Valen Buster, gives those notes to Nirab, which he creates his own henshin device, but creates his own Gochizos to not be reliant on Shoma's, while Suga one-ups that by creating something that's just capable of making Gochizos on its own. Well, with the help of snacks. The thing about it is, if he had just cloned Shoma, then he would have ended up with a worthless defected Gavv. So he might have needed Dente's notes as well to make sure that the clone had the proper equipment. Then how'd he do that in a day? So now that takes us to Dente, who will likely be our main means of support for Lakia and the others as time permits. Since we've already seen that Shoma's Gochizos don't just pass freely through his body, that means that Sorbet could be one that's just too big to pass and Dente will have to go out of his way to really just make it come through. But I do feel that as Dente becomes more and more relevant to the story, and either Nirub or the other stomach family members find out that he's alive, he's likely going to end up meeting his end at the hands of his own family members. The Hanto's mom angle of it all really doesn't add more to the story yet. See, prior to the latest episode, I started formulating the theory that it's possible that Shoma lost his mom when he was young, hence the scene why you see her holding his hand and saying, "We'll find your mom." And so, to keep him at bay, they used a divisor or something of the like on Hanto's mom to give her the appearance of Shoma's mom, which would explain the lack of love between her and Shoma's dad. But also, her taking responsibility and taking care of Shoma as if it were her own son. But after seeing the scene of her falling into the pool of what is likely dark candy mixture, makes me think that this is indeed that she was just spiced up. Considering that she was captured before the process of glassification was completed, likely her falling into that vat is the explainer to how they spiced things up back in the day. The other plot thread that I see needing to be addressed will be Lakia's brother, Kamen. Since it seems like everyone was passing the buck on who to blame regarding Lakia's turn, or his plan overall, but the prospect of his death does actually remain a mystery. Translating the page regarding his tenure in the Stomach family didn't really lend itself any major clues. But since he was slaughtered in the Granute world, it makes me wonder if it's another party that we haven't been introduced yet. I mean, we haven't seen much of the Granute society outside of a lot of lower level Granutes and the Stomach family, yet we keep hearing about that upper class without seeing them. But I am looking forward to seeing how Nirub deals with the fact that he got played and essentially gave his tech to an opponent now. Which really makes me think that we may get some sort of Vlam mass production down the line from Nirub, probably utilizing his own agents as users, but actually in doing so would be an admission of guilt to the others. So these plans may play out in secret or after the others are gone and Nirub is the last one, or he thinks he's the last one standing within his family. But that stands par for the course depending on how Suga's plans with Bitter Gavv end up playing out. But yes, we are pretty much nearing that halfway point, but there's still so much more. Though the latest episode was a return to form, the last few did have pacing issues that I do hope indeed get corrected. But those are my thoughts. What are yours? I'm sorry for the format change for this particular review, but I'm actually filming this and Boom Boomdra back to back, so just leave your comments down below, and from here on out, let's see how things play out. Until then, bye.